Okay, we are down the shore, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to be doing this particular podcast. I am joined by the chief of the lifeguards of Sea Isle City, Mr. Renny Steele, and also a dear friend of mine who is a lifeguard alum, Jean Riley. So I thank you very much for both of you being here today. And really,
You're welcome.
really appreciate it. So Sea Isle City Lifeguards has such a rich history. Tell me some of the history of the lifeguards in Sea Isle City.
Well, on July 11th, 1919, the first lifeguard stand was placed on the beach. That's when the beach patrol was established. There was one lifeguard stand, and it was at 43rd Street. For those who've been around for quite a few years, 44th Street used to be the main entrance into Sea Isle.
That's right.
And that's where the bridge was. So people would come right down 44th Street to the beach, park along the street, and go to the lifeguard stand on 43rd Street.
That is so cool. And I remember coming into Sea Isle on that bridge, and you can still see some of the telly poles on the other side of the bay, that the entrance in. So I'd love to know your background, both of you, to what drew you to Sea Isle City Beach Patrol. What is your journey here?
Well, I mean, I first started coming to Sea Isle in 1964. My father had a friend at work who had a place in Sea Isle, and we would come down, we would camp offshore at Belle Plaine and come in to surf and ski and so forth and so on. And then eventually my parents decided at 86th Street, they would get a place, and we summered for a number of years.
So for those of you under about 40, when he says ski, water skiing was a really big thing. You don't see people water skiing anymore, right? That was like a huge thing when we were growing up.
On 88th Street, there was a bay beach where we used to, exit from, or, you could ski standing up, just a couple hops and on the slalom skiing out to the bay. So it was a big beach. There were a lot of people there. Yeah, but that's gone now.
That's gone with the two ski. Did you ever water ski?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was terrible. I was also terrible at skiing. Jean, how far back how many years ago were you a brand new
I got a similar story to Renny. My father was from Atlantic City area, and then we moved up to Central Jersey when I was a kid, and he wanted to come back down here. And his good friend George Ramsey at the time had a place in Sea Isle, so we came down there for a weekend. Then we started renting for 2 years off of 52nd Street, and then my father bought in 1970, and that's what brought us all down here.
That's amazing. So there is some kind of mystique, and I don't know if it's a Sea Isle thing or whether it is just a lifeguard thing, and maybe you both can explain this to me, but in Sea Isle, it is so generational. I mean, Jean, your identical twin brother, your kids, probably your grandchild.
Hopefully.
So what is it that, I mean, there's so many big names that we could rattle off, the Montgomerys, McCanns, Letters, Rileys, what is that mystique? What brings families here generationally?
Gene had expressed it a little earlier before we went on air. It's a brotherhood. All beach patrols have a certain personality. Sea Isles lends itself where the guards never want to leave. They finally do leave, but they want their children to experience the same thing. We're now, since I've been working in the patrol, I started in 1968. I'm into third generation, where Jerry Gaiman was a lieutenant on the beach patrol. His son now, Chuck Gaiman, is a lieutenant on the beach patrol, and his daughter, Chris, and his daughter Chris. His son Chris and his daughter Grace are now on the beach patrol. So that's third generation. That's just one example.
That's so cool. And your family and is all involved and has
It
been.
really is. You know, something. It is a brotherhood, and it's a part of our life. It was the best part of my life. It still is. That's the reason I want to come back down here. That's the reason I want to be here. I don't have to be on the beach patrol, but my friends are down here. They come down in the summer. They come down in the winter. I keep in touch with them on a regular basis. They're my closest buddies. And God, you know, something you'd be surprised. You know, in life, what my friends ended up being, doctors, lawyers, and all that. You never know, but we've reached out to one a few times. So
That's a good, Renny. What would you say? I mean, obviously, it seems a lot of the lifeguards are super successful in life. They come back and they're buying shore houses. I'm a realtor. I know I've sold houses to former lifeguards. So what are the skills that they're developing and learning to make them so successful for the rest of their life?
Part of it is the fact that we take exceptional people to begin with. For example, during the lifeguard test, we have a personal interview, and we weed out guards that aren't exceptional. We look for people who have exceptional people skills, who are mature, who are goal-oriented, who are responsible. So that gives us a leg up. We're hiring people that are really exceptional. So that's one thing, you know. That's why they're so successful. And I like to think that the culture of the beach patrol does teach them some things, lessons for life, I call them.
That's awesome. That really is. So what would you say, like, do we have any super famous people that have been lifeguards here, or maybe a certain profession that you mentioned doctors. I know there's lawyers that were.
Dan Mullen,
Dan Mullen, yeah.
he was the head coach at Mississippi. I think it was Mississippi State, and then went to the University of Florida. You see him on ESPN now.
That's so cool.
And he has mentioned the beach patrol in Seal
That
as being something that was a big part of his life.
that's just amazing. Do you have a sense of when the first woman was a lifeguard in town?
Yeah, that was, speaking of exceptional people, that was Peggy Lawler Hutchinson. She was hired in 1974. She swam for William and Mary, was a 10-time All-American swimmer. So you can see she was not only, well, she was an exceptional athlete, probably the perfect person to break the barrier of a female being in a male-dominated profession, summer job. Yeah, so she was exceptional. And later in life, she became a federal judge. And just a point of interest, she is going to be the keynote speaker at our Women in Lifeguarding conference, will be held at St. Joe's Church this year. So I'll be very anxious to hear what her impressions were as being a female in a male-dominated profession in 1974, because I worked with her a number of times, and I'm wondering, I thought everything was fine, but I wonder what her impressions really were.
That is amazing. That I would be interested in that too. Is that going to be open to the public? Because I'd love to.
Well, the Women's Lifeguard Conference is for South Jersey Beach Patrols. They all send women representatives, and we do get some from North Jersey, but that's not open to the general public.
Okay. So, well, then I'll just have to.
We're limited to about 75 female guards, only because of the size of the venue at St. Joe's.
Right. So I'm thinking Seattle's pretty famous for their lifeguard races too. There's lifeguard races all summer long and all the different beaches. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I mean, there are, during the summer, probably 3 or 4 lifeguard races a week. And they start, I think the first one is July 1st this year. Some are just county races. Some are for all South Jerseys. Every patrol, 15 in South Jersey. Sometimes there are invitationals where certain patrols are invited and only those patrols participate. For example, you can go to the Bash and Callahan's. I think that's 7 beach patrols. We go to that. We go to the counties. That's 10 beach patrols. It's an invitational, but only county patrols. So, and we're always very competitive. We don't always win, but it does bring a sense of pride and accomplishment to the patrol. It's very good for morale, and that's one of the things that we talked about earlier that have people coming back. I want to experience that again. The guards, they get a bus and they go to almost all the races. We like Danny Rogers a couple of years ago. I don't remember the year. He was South Jersey champs in the singles row. Back in, I'm going to say 64, we had a doubles crew, Dale Bonzel and Huey Bowen, who won the doubles race.
That's awesome.
We've had a number of swimmers get second in the swim, but we never had any. Oh, we did. I don't think we ever had a South. Maybe we had one South Jersey champ, I think. Milton, maybe? I'd have to look that up. Yeah, just one South Jersey champ in the half-mile swim.
Did you ever compete in the lifeguard races?
Oh, yeah.
Was it with your twin?
No, I competed with a bunch of different people. I did it one year with my brother, and he steered us right onto the jetty. So, and then they come out to get us off the jetty, and we're punching each other in the boat. But other than that, I rode with a bunch of other people, and I had pretty good success. I really enjoyed it. Back in the 70s and 80s, they used to have 2 heats of six boats. They used to have 12 boats out there. So 2 heats of 6. It was a big deal. And they used to be a big deal for the city races. Remember the city races?
Oh, yeah. City races used to get a big crowd, but it was a one-time event. Now the city races involve races over the summer, like a doubles race may be the first week in June, no, last week in June, and then the first week in July. So we spread them out. So it's not one race takes all.
Yeah.
You have to earn the city championship through a number of races.
Nice. I heard you two talking a little bit. It sounded like you were talking a different language about the boats and the grips and all. Are there new boats, new technology? What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, lifeguarding since I started is a totally different thing now. Talking about the boats, when I started, they were wooden boats. They leaked. You went out on boat layout off the crowd. That's watching the crowd from the water. And, after about an hour, you'd have to come in and empty the boat out because it was full of water. It's true. Now the boats are fiberglass. They probably went from 400 pounds to, under 300 pounds. They're easy to move. So, yeah, we're talking about the fall pins. They used to be spikes that if you landed on them, you could be impaled. Now they're horseshoe shaped and a lot higher. So, things have changed a lot.
Nice.
Boats have gotten lighter. Back in the 70s, 80s, boats were weighing about 400 pounds, and you had a boat on pretty much every other beach. And you had to haul that thing down every morning and take it back at night. You didn't mind it at high tide, but at low tide, it was a haul.
It's hard, right? Right. So we talked about what you also have some things for young people. Do you still do the mascots?
Yes, we have a lot of programs we do. You're probably the most popular. The one that registration closes out every year in February or early March is the mascot school. That's for 4 to 8-year-olds. We teach beach safety. There are games, refreshments, candy, juices. They get a mascot shirt the final day. That's a really great program. It creates a lot of goodwill between the beach patrol and the general public. And we could probably take 400 kids, but we can't. I can't get enough guards off the beach to.
Our kids did that.
Uh,
Did your kids do it too?
No, we didn't have it. I don't think it had started at that point, but after it did, and now people plan their vacations around it.
Around, oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
It's 44. It's been around for 44 years. It's been around a long time.
Wow, wow.
Oh, then the kids do.
Then your kids, yeah, I'm like, if my kids, our kids,
I'm pretty.
My son was actually, I believe they were in it. I think they both were.
they
in it,
were,
yeah.
yeah.
I think your children were, and Eugene's a little senile, and he doesn't remember what happened
That's
20
true.
years ago. Oh, and the other thing is that I do want to mention another program for 14 to 17-year-olds is our LIT program. That's Lifeguards in Training, and that's capped at 40. We still have a few spots for that, maybe 10 spots left, but that's our best recruiting tool.
Nice.
It's not fun and games like mascot school. We put them through lifeguard drills, rescues. They actually take the lifeguard test before they're old enough. So they could do it like 14 and 15, and then 16, they would try out for the beach patrol. We have a morning row program that they can involve themselves in. We have a swim clinic. It's called a stroke clinic. It's basically advanced swim lessons so that they can pass the lifeguard test, pass that 500-meter pool swim in under 10 minutes. And we started that program for the alumni. What would happen is that the alumni would send their kids to take the test, and they would not pass the standard qualifications. They couldn't pass the run or the swim, and they were very disappointed. And a lot of those individuals, that alumni, were personal friends. So we decided this program would be good. So we started it for the alumni, but it's become one of our best recruiting tools. Probably 40% of our guards that we hire are from that program now.
Nice.
And you also have, at the end of the year, when some of these kids go back to school, don't you take from that junior lifeguard program?
Anybody who was too young to try out, because you have to be 16 to be an ocean lifeguard, not a pool lifeguard. But if they turn 15 in July, we work them the end of the summer.
Or 16, yeah.
If they have to be 16. If they have to turn 16 at the
yeah.
end of the summer, yeah. Not,
You know what? I was going to ask that because I know it's so generational in families. And one of my questions was going to be what happens if their kid doesn't make it. But it seems as though you proactively came up with that. So that's a pretty impressive tool.
really for personal reasons, because I felt so bad when, a person that I was friends with, their children couldn't make the patrol. Now, Gene and I have been friends for years. We were stand partners, and his children were good athletes, so that wasn't a concern. In fact, I lived with Gene's family, a number of years, and I think it was basically his mother, when she found out I had no place to stay, she offered me a bed, and they fed me, and it was like being part of the family.
She's amazing. She really is. She just absolutely amazing. So I think it's really important, especially for this podcast, to talk about some safety things. Is there something that you would wish every beach goer would know in advance?
Yeah, there are some safety tips that I'd like to cover, and some of these are so important that I'm going to read them word for word. We do have quite a few safety tips on our website, sicbp.com, and I'm not going to go into all those safety tips. I'm just going to cover some of the ones that people aren't aware of, and when they hear them, they go, oh my God, I never thought of that. So I'll read a couple. I think I have 5 that are of major importance.
Thank you.
Always listen to the lifeguard's whistles and swim directly in front of the lifeguard stand. Guards are aware of ocean hazards such as rip currents, inshore holes, and lateral currents. This awareness enables guards to keep bathers away from these hazards and safe. Never enter the water when lifeguards are not present. And I don't think that needs any explanation. The next one that I'd like to cover, and people don't think of this, and when they go out in the water and lifeguards aren't there, that's when we lose people. Poor or non-swimmers who are using flotation devices, especially a device not attached to the body, should never be more than waist deep in the ocean. Loss of a flotation device in water which is overhead can result in tragedy. Again, that doesn't need any further explanations. The next one does, and deaths occur every year throughout the United States because people aren't aware of this safety tip. Never dig parallel to the sand's surface, which is a tunnel. Eventually, the tunnel will collapse and suffocate anyone inside the tunnel. The size of a hole in the sand can also collapse. Dig holes only to waist deep. If more than one person is in a hole, the depth should be waist deep of the shortest person in the hole. Holes should not be left unattended and should be filled in before you leave the beach. Just recently this year, there was a brother and sister who were digging a hole in Florida. The sides collapsed, and they were able to save the son because he was on top of the daughter. And I think he was under the sand for about 7 minutes, but the daughter did not survive because it took longer to dig her out. So it's very important. And the other thing we don't want them doing is digging two holes and then trying to dig a tunnel connecting the two holes.
Oh, yeah.
And the kids think that's a great thing to do, but it's very, very dangerous. What we see in Sea Isle, which we have, especially at our south end, is when we have beach erosion and the dunes result in a cliff, like maybe an 8 to 10 foot drop off where the sand has been eroded, and kids will dig tunnels into the sand dunes straight in. So they're digging into a wall, and the lifeguards, their primary responsibility is the water. Secondary is the beach. So they may not catch a lot of these things. Now, usually an adult will call us and say there's kids digging in the sand dunes. And of course, we go back and take care of it. We also depend on the police department who does, they patrol the beaches to watch out for children in deep holes or people digging into the sand dunes.
It's my family, my parents going to the beach. They were so adamant. Those lifeguards left. We were never, ever to set foot into the water ever. And I did that with my kids, never allowing them, and understanding rip currents. And but it's funny that you mentioned that the digging parallel to the ocean. I never knew that. That was something that really struck me, and then you brought it to our attention. But
and that's kind of what I'm talking about. That people
Right.
they're not aware of what they're doing. I only have two more because these are really good ones. I'm not going to read them all, as I said, but this is something that parents never think of. Walk small children to the lifeguard stand and instruct them to go to the stand whenever they are lost. Bring a unique flag or umbrella for children to use as a landmark. Children go to the water, they turn around, they have no idea where their parents are. If the crowd, if the beach is really crowded. Special needs children should be introduced to the lifeguards so that they understand they are not going to respond to whistles, they are not going to understand hand signals, and this can be a problem at times. So we want special needs children to be introduced to the lifeguards. And this is so important. When you arrive at the beach, for added safety, take a cell phone picture of your children's attire. I don't know how many times we've had a lost child and parents will say, oh yeah, Johnny has blonde hair, he's 6 years old, he has a blue swimsuit on. And then when we finally find the child an hour later, 20 blocks down the beach, he has a yellow swimsuit on.
Yeah.
And maybe he wore those clothes 2 or 3 days ago. it's amazing how parents aren't aware of what their children are wearing. And this way, they show the picture to the guard, and the guard radios in the description. Then we contact the police, and we begin a search for that child.
Nice. When my kids were little, we were renters at the time, and when we would check into any of the real estate offices like Larrick's, they gave us little bands for the kids' ankles to put the address, because the kids come down here, it's not their address. People are like, well, what street are you on? They don't even know what street, because everybody, you're unpacking the house, you're trying to get to the beach. So I can see where those are such great tips to take a picture. I mean, that's amazing. That is just amazing.
I'll give you one more. It's short. Something the parents never think of. Protect feet. Protect feet with footwear when the sand is extremely hot. This is especially true with young children whose feet are tender and not calloused. Small children's feet can actually be burnt to the point of blistering. Parents walk on the hot sand, they're uncomfortable, but they think, okay, I don't know how many times I've seen a small child crying and the parents angry with them because they want to be carried. They want to be carried because their feet are being burnt. And parents don't understand that.
Well, I have a great place for them to go right on the island. Sam's department store, 63rd and Landis. They have a unbelievable shoe department. So that is those are great tips. We didn't have those tips when our kids were little, like some of them.
No, we didn't.
We did not.
But times have changed.
People should check out sicbp.com and go to safety tips.
That is amazing. I really appreciate that. So we talked about this long history with the Seattle Beach Patrol. What are some things that both of you see as evolving over time? What's different than what you started in 1968?
Okay, I've got a really good one for you. In 1968, we had what was called diamond cans. Some of them were canvas and cork, and they had a rope strap. So when you went on a rescue, you put it around your shoulder and swam out. They were heavy, waterlogged, and very uncomfortable. If you had 2 or 3 rescues that day, you had rope burns all over your shoulder and chest. And then they went to the fiberglass cans. They were even heavier. And when you were running down the beach and the wind was blowing them into your knees, your legs were black and blue. Now we have lightweight plastic torpedoes, which you can carry high, like a football if you want to, and they have straps, not ropes. They have a rope, but the strap goes around your shoulder. Great improvement.
That's an excellent improvement, because those diamond ones, man, if you're out in the water going to get somebody and a wave hits you, you're blocking yourself from getting hit by the can.
Wow.
Because they hurt. They flat out hurt.
That is amazing.
And another thing that is a great improvement since Gene and I were working, and it's interesting because Gene was the last person to have one of these. In the old days, we had red jackets that were wool. So if it would rain, you would have a wet jacket for 3 days, and you were lucky if it didn't stink at the end of those 3 days. Gene was the last person to have a red jacket. I worked with him on the beach, and I would tell him, stand up and wave your arms to get rid of that jacket, because back in the day, we had a red flag system. You would put a red flag up when you had a rescue and you need backup. So he stood up one day, he was waving around, and they called a run on the next beach. So the next day, they got rid of that jacket. They found him a jacket.
With the red flags, they don't still do that?
No, it's a totally different system now, because we have beach warning flags that we fly on every stand. And maybe I should go into that. I know
That's a good
spent a lot on safety.
No, I think you can never spend too much time on safety.
Each stand flies a flag of a certain color. For example, green means low hazard, calm conditions, use caution. If the conditions are a little more hazardous, we go to a yellow flag, which is medium hazard, moderate surf conditions, and or moderate currents. And then if we fly a red flag, and that's why we don't fly the red flag. And that's why we have it different. The red flag means high hazard, high surf, and strong currents. So, that's why we kind of get away with that. So what we do now is we take down every flag except the beach that has the rescue going on that needs backup. They leave their flag up, so you run towards the flag no matter what color it is. And we have radios. That's another thing.
Well, you didn't have that.
Back in the day when I started, we had a radio at 85th Street and a radio at 34th Street. They were our flotation devices. They were called raft beaches back then, the canvas rafts. And that was it. So anytime we had a lost child, the lieutenants had to go to that beach, and we had hand signals. I need a lieutenant down here to look for a child.
Wow.
So
technology.
Something interesting, and this is something that people aren't aware of again, they'll come up and they'll say, why do we have a red flag? They have a yellow flag down there. That's not fair. Well, the reason is because each beach has different surf conditions.
Right.
If I'm at 45th Street and I have a flag, a rip current right next to my crowd, I'm putting up a red flag. Maybe 49th Street, the next beach down, has a yellow flag because they have no rip currents. Maybe 42nd Street, right near the JFK jetty, has a strong southeast wind, and the crowd is being pushed into the jetty. They may fly a red flag. So, you can't call us up and say, what color flag are you flying today? We're flying red, yellow, and green.
So your name is so cool, Renny Steele. It sounds like a lifeguard.
There you go. I like that.
It really does. What is Renny short for something?
Yes.
Or?
My name is Warren Gifford Steele. I was named after my two grandfathers because my father was also named Warren. My mother would call me Renny, the end of Warren, Renny. So it would be Warren or Renny at home. And it just always stuck with me.
That's so cool. So for those of you that are under 40, you probably don't know this, but there was a show called This Is Your Life. So Renny Steele, This Is Your Life. I texted some of former or your alum and asked them some questions about you. I said, good questions.
Probably not true, unless they are good.
Believe it or not, they were also good. I'll tell you, lifeguards are just absolutely amazing. But several of them asked about technology and what do you see for the future? You mentioned a few things, but some had asked if you see like drones or things like that that would improve safety.
We have considered drones. I went to a state police course presentation on drones, and I think the police department is getting a couple of drones or already have them. The problem is that with all the kites flying and all, you can't just send a drone down the beach. You get caught in the lines and whatnot. Back in the day, because we were a municipality, we had to get a pilot's license. Now, I don't know if that's still true.
You do, right, Billy? Don't you need a pilot's AFA? No.
You would not need a license.
I think
you could go out and buy a drone and you could fly it whatever you want.
I could, but he could.
But because we're a city and a municipality, and because of lawsuits and things, I believe you still need some kind of a license or something. So drones is not something that we're really considering. I know Wildwood has a drone, and we have hired people to fly drones, like for our ocean swim, so we can promote the ocean swim and to keep an eye on things. But we do not operate everything. we decided that the only way we could do it is we'd have to send a lieutenant down in a vehicle following the drone, which defeats the purpose. Now, I do know that they are coming up with drones that'll drop a rescue torpedo to a victim. So I would think that the police may want to investigate this, because when the guards are not, when it's off season and the guards are not around, this is something that would probably benefit them. They could drop some kind of a rescue buoy, which would stabilize the scene. They wouldn't have to go in the water, and they could have the Coast Guard come and get the person. So it might be worth it for the police.
So we talked a little bit about your history, and this particular alum wanted to know if you remember a story when Pat Moran, Lynn Way, and Tom Montgomery took you out late one night when you were living in Connecticut and working maybe harvester or something like that.
International Harvester. I was selling tractor trailers.
And they said that they convinced you to go back to the beach patrol, and then you became a teacher and ultimately captain and then chief here.
Yeah, my parents were very goal oriented, and it would not be acceptable to be a lifeguard. And so as soon as I graduated from college, they wanted me getting a serious job. So I took a job with International Harvester. I was making fairly good money. My parents were very happy. They were very proud of me, and I was very unhappy. So, and my parents have passed, so I can talk about it now. So they came up and they said, listen, we'll talk to Billy and see if he'll take you back, because the summer had already started. I think it was that day, I think I worked, or that week I worked, it was a Saturday. The air conditioning was broken in the office and it was 90 degrees out, and I had a suit on. So it wasn't too hard to talk me into it. So I did come back that summer, got my teaching certification, and then at a later time, I got my master's in counseling and became a counselor. I taught woodshop for about 18 years and then counselor for about 19. So it all worked out for me, yeah. And I love lifeguarding. I love working with the people. I love being around the kids. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Jean, you said a similar thing, and you actually went back.
Yeah, I went back at age 55 because at the end of the summer, a lot of these kids have to go back to school for college, and they may start second week in August or something. It seems like it's doing it more and more every day, every year. They go back early for whatever reason, whatever sport they're playing. So the beach patrol gets a little shorthanded, and so I decided to try back out for the last 2 weeks of the summer, to help out. Plus, I love being on the beach. I really enjoyed that job. I really did. So yeah, I did that for six summers.
I'll tell you, when you were doing that, I was so proud of you as your friend. I thought that was just an amazing thing to be able to do that.
I have an interesting story about people coming back like Jean.
Love it.
Sean Harbison, who is a doctor, an internist, he operates, I think, like gallbladders and spleens and whatnot. And he also operates at the Philadelphia Zoo on the gorillas, and he's operated on pigs.
Yeah.
When it's so complicated that, a veterinarian really can't do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he would do the same thing. He'd come back the last couple of weeks of the summer and work. Well, one day, Channel 6 was up here filming, and he was right down on 45th Street, and we had a rescue. So he goes out into the water and rescues these people, and they're filming all this. And it's on the news that night. So so a couple of days later, he has patients coming back and saying, are you really a doctor or are you a lifeguard?
Truth, yeah.
That is amazing.
But yeah, amazing. Like you talk about accomplished people who are amazing. He's another one. If I thought about it, I could come up with quite a few,
And then we're just finding out, as an encore career, Jean, what are you doing this summer?
I'm going to be a beach tag inspector.
Love it. Just love it.
Not beneath me.
You just can't stay away from the water. And it seems as though so many lifeguards are surfers and fishermen and boats.
I would have gone back to the beach. I would have tried back out for the beach patrol. The only reason I did is because I hurt my knees 5 years ago, and I'm just afraid of ripping a tendon, and being 8 weeks like this isn't fun.
No, but you did. Hey, going back when you did that, that was absolutely amazing. Um, Now we talked about a little bit about the brotherhood and sisterhood. There's probably the same thing with the female. You have some of your Hall of Famers are females also.
Yes, yes, they are. You might be, well, yes, you're talking about, okay, the Hall of Famers, yes, we have some females who have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I think a big thing for the Beach Patrol was when we had the first female voted Rookie of the Year. Starting in 1993, the Guards started selecting a Rookie of the Year, the rookie who did the best job, was the most alert, knew all the rules and regulations, was a great guard. By the end of the summer, they could be left on the stand by themselves. A rookie is in training their whole first year. But this would be a rookie that, hey, I can go back to the bathroom and I don't have to tell the stand next to me I'm leaving a rookie alone. Yeah, I forget the first year, and it's on the wall. I don't know who the first female was, but that was a big deal.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Is there anything else? Because I think this is really important. We did some safety tips. Is there anything else? I mean, I feel as though you could do a little shout out to some of the alum. We talked about some of the names, and anything that you would like people to know about this summer coming up.
We're looking for lifeguards.
Oh, right.
We're always looking for lifeguards. We carry 108 when we're fully staffed. We have 76 guards coming back, so we're going to need about 32. So, we're looking for lifeguards. And one thing, I mean, there's a number of quotes on the wall there that pertain to some of the questions you asked, like, why do you keep coming back? Why would Gene come back at 55? Why would Dr. Eric Greensmith lose 30 pounds and come back and lifeguard on the beach and get his EMT and work in the first aid room? And some of those quotes do explain that, but I'm hooked up here to a mic. Something about wanting to belong to something special. And when I read them, no matter how many times I read them, I relate to them, and it's very moving, and I get choked up, believe it or not. So many guards, when they come back, they tell me, see, I'm going to get choked up again.
Oh, I love it.
They tell me that part of me is the fact that I was a lifeguard, that the person I am today, it's because I took a piece. Boy, well, I took a piece of everybody I worked with, and that's who I am. Part of me is because I'm a lifeguard. I've had lifeguards in tears because they had to leave. And of course, their kids now are lifeguards. It's just amazing. And, before we leave, if I can read a couple of those quotes, they aren't my words. I don't know where they came from. I think some of them are from songs, but they're just amazing.
One thing is, I can't speak for any other patrol, but in CL, once you're a lifeguard, you always felt like you're a lifeguard. That's why your kids become lifeguards, and their kids become lifeguards. And your friends all come down here. They all have a reason to buy a place down here and be down here, and they all want to be here. This was their happy time. And then when they retire, it's back to their happy time again. They get to see their same old buddies again and all that kind of good stuff. So
that's amazing.
Here's one of those quotes. Call it a clan, call it a network, call it a tribe. Here we go again. Call it a patrol, call it a family, but whatever you call it, whoever you are, trust me, you want to be a part of it. That never leaves.
Yeah.
It never leaves.
Yeah.
I'm going to cry. I'm like,
yeah.
It's and there's another really good one. And go ahead, Gene, give it a little bit. I'll look for it and see if I can find it.
It's something. I started a golf outing about
I was going to
30
ask you
some
that.
years ago. And it was really just getting the guys back. We get like 18, 20
that
guys
back?
back. And then to play in the golf outing, just to keep in touch. And then we get together in the wintertime also. But it's grown to about 70 people now. I got 70 people that come back every year to play this golf outing. And we raise money for a great cause for old lifeguards, families that have had issues, causes like Ronald McDonald, the Cancer Society, people that have passed away from the beach patrol at a young age. We've raised money for that. Last year we raised money for the Amyloidosis Society. So every year we have a lifeguard in mind when we go to raise money. And we've raised over $100,000. I didn't realize it was that much, but yeah, we have. It's not like
That's
I'm trying to
awesome.
make any money. I'm just trying to give money out to people and all that kind of stuff. But we started having extra money, and I was like, just give it to a cause.
That's
So
awesome.
and now it's been a real thing for people.
That I know when all the lifeguards are coming down that
Yeah.
it's such a big thing, and
It's
they're
a
not
big deal.
not necessarily golfers.
No,
That-
it's just it's the camaraderie.
the camaraderie.
You get together and you sit and talk about the old stories or anything
Hello.
like that. I mean, they get bigger.
Do they get bigger and bigger every
What
year?
starts as a minnow ends up as a whale. I mean, that's just how it is. Joe LaRosa with the wave that he caught one time and almost flipped it. It was like it probably was this big and ended up this big.
Fish stories are the best.
Yeah, they were. But I mean, it's been a great cause. And again, we were just trying to get people together, and then we threw an extra couple bucks on the end, and then we gave the money away immediately, and it's been a great cause.
That's amazing.
I usually break 100, but
And then the beach patrol puts it. I get everything out, and the beach patrol puts it on their website when we're having it and all that kind of good stuff. And I'm sure they get phone calls, but we get a lot of the same people. I mean,
Awesome.
each year, newer ones. My son's following up with his become a big following.
That's amazing.
here's a quote that explains where this bond comes from and what made them unique. Well, they all threw themselves into the interest of the rest. Believed in one another and pushed one another on a daily basis. When you go in the water on a rescue, no matter how dangerous it is, no matter how scared you are, you always realize you've got backup. You have somebody coming because of that quote. And it's an experience that very few people have. And I think that's why there's something special. Like, I mean, I can not see a guard for 20 years, and it's like we just talked to each other yesterday.
That's exactly what it is.
It's I'll tell you, I cannot thank the two of you enough, Renny and Jean. I feel honored. I mean, I can honestly say I would never have qualified for any of the swims or any. I wouldn't be able to, but I have so much respect deep down in my heart since I was a little girl here on the beaches of Seattle with the lifeguards, and to be a personal friend of one, and to get to know you better, Chief. I mean, this has been an honor, and I think people are going to love to hear this.
I'll tell you a story real quick about Colleen Smith. We had a really bad rescue. It was, 64, 68th Street. And there were probably 20 people in the water. And, it was really bad. And I went down there, and we had all the backup we could get. And Colleen Smith came in, brought two kids. And there was a man on the beach and she turned. And he said, "You better not go out again." And she said, "I have to." She went out and brought two more kids in. That's the kind of people that Lifeguard in Sea Isle.
It's just amazing.
I know I appear like I'm a little kid, and I'm getting all choked
No,
up.
the passion.
I've lived all these things for so many years, and every time I see like maybe a 16-year-old girl who's 110 pounds go out in that hurricane surf, no matter what, it reminds me of the old Coast Guard adage, and I was a Coast Guard, you have to go out, but you don't have to come back. And it amazes me. I remember one year we had a jet ski flip, and it was hurricane. The beaches were closed, and we brought everybody in down here, and it started at 28th Street, and we ended up rescuing them at about 43rd Street. And when we got everybody in, we couldn't tell who came in and who didn't come in. We had people with dislocated shoulders and all. I mean, it was really a bad rescue. And we had to come up to the beach house, get the log, the beach assignment sheet, and have rolled to see if everybody got in, because we didn't know. And that was an amazing rescue. And I remember one of the guards had to go to the hospital because the waves were so big that they were trying to pull people in and would rip their shoulders out of the socket.
And I think that's so important to respect the ocean.
I don't think people understand. They see a guard sitting on the beach and they don't realize all the training, like Eugene said that he did, like the months they spend in a pool swimming and running, and the CPR classes they have to take, and the AED training, and the advanced first aid they have to have before they even start, and the hours they give before they, non-paid hours before they even start. People say, well, what do you do? They just sit up there in sun all day. No, they don't.
I hope that this will inform people and to be respectful of the lifeguards and all of the work that you do. And Steele thanks you for everything. I mean, you really are amazing.
People say, oh, it's quite an accomplishment. You've been on the patrol for 55 years. Is it an accomplishment if you're doing something you love and you enjoy? And don't tell anybody. I'd probably do it for free, but don't tell them, because they would cut my salary, I'm sure. But it's not an accomplishment. It's a labor of love, maybe. But everybody, my administration, they've all been around for 30, 40, 50 years. They all love it.
That's so
they keep coming back. That's why.
I have chills right now. I can't even tell you what I thought this was going to be and what it is. It's way, way better, and I appreciate it.
I get choked up very easily. And at the morning meeting, sometimes we'll get an email from somebody about a rescue or something a guard did. Like I remember one of our guards, can't remember her name now. She was coming to work and somebody couldn't figure out how to work the parking meters, where you went and they tried and they tried. She goes, don't worry about it. Here, use mine. So she paid for them to park for the day. And they emailed me. So when I went to read it, I'm saying, this is the kind of person we want on the patrol, at the morning meeting. And I'm so proud of her. She's now a nurse in Massachusetts, and I can't remember her name. But I went to read it, I couldn't. So Chuck Gaiman, one of my lieutenants, read it, because a lot of times I just can't,
get choked up.
Get choked up.
This is great.
And they all know it.
Yeah.
When I gave my daughter a plaque for 20 years of service last year, I had to stop and I got choked up. And Chuck said, do you want me to read it? And I said, no, this is the one I got to do myself. But a lot of times, like when I gave Shaky, Mike Farley, his award for 30 years of service, it was very emotional, because I'd been with these guys. They're like brothers, not by blood.
Yeah.
But it's very hard.
It's amazing.
And when you sit with somebody over the course of the summer, every day, and you're talking and you're learning about them, there's a bonding like that I have with Eugene, because we sat together for a year. That you really get to know that person. It's not like a schoolmate that you may spend 10 hours a week with. You're spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and then you go out at night with these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the next morning when you come out the beach, you have each other's back.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, thank you for keeping our beaches safe and sound, and please continue to do it. And
I'm trying.
The beach tag checkers in the people make sure they have the beach tags because
I'll know
that
how
pays
much-
for our
I
beaches.
know how much I like it after Saturday.